Okay, we're back. Eric wants to talk about, we've discussed this a couple of times, but I guess this is another one of these. We're getting more and more serious each time.
Well,
So here's the driver classes.
yeah, wants to talk might be a stretch for this one. um, this was mostly a reminder of, hey, we were going to clean this up a few years ago, and we should probably still do that. So basically, our driver classes stuff. Well, okay, so some history. We originally had a class called VolumeDriver that everybody inherited from. Then at some point, we tried splitting things out into classes that represented different functions. So there was a base VolumeDriver class, and then there was an extend and a migrate and various classes that you could kind of use as mix-ins. I think we figured out years ago that that didn't really deliver benefits that would justify how complicated and confusing it is. So I think the notion for how to clean that up is that I assume we mostly want to go back to the VolumeDriver base class and move drivers forward inheriting from that. And the main reason this matters is because if anybody's developing a new driver, figuring out this structure of classes and what you should inherit from and how it works is kind of a mess because it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So I think we should clean this up, and then that will help also toward documenting a proper driver API interface for people, which eventually will benefit testing and the MyPy stuff and everything. But the goal here is really just to give kind of a more coherent interface for writing a driver. So I guess what we need to do is figure out what it's going to take to remove these ABC classes, the BaseVD and extend VD and those kind of things. It may be that we kind of deprecate them and we just push drivers in the tree back toward VolumeDriver and then remove them in the next cycle. It may be that we think we can just remove them because I don't know. I don't know how many out of tree drivers are of significant interest to not do this at this point. I know there's a couple out there, but I don't know that there's that many. And I don't know how many of them are out there that are too widely used or anything.
All right, so we'd have to, all right. So I can take an action item to, we'll send us something to the, I'm assuming that people maintaining out of tree drivers would at least pay attention to the OpenStack mailing list. So I can at least, yeah, who knows, push something out there.
One idea that I had a while ago for trying to clean this up would be to remove a lot of the ABC stuff, but leave just the basic class definitions there so that out of tree drivers might still work. But I don't know if that's really beneficial enough to bother figuring out how to do it. It might be more work than it's really worth trying to do it in a multiple phase thing like that.
So are there any reasons to keep the mix-in classes?
I don't think they actually are delivering any useful functionality. So I don't know of a good reason other than just the fact that they've been there for a while.
Yeah. Then I think, so I guess this is kind of a orthogonal question. We do have the interface class or classes, and we've got tests associated with those to make sure that the drivers implement the interface. But I
If you've
think
got
that's
interfaces or interface classes, how it's implemented in Cinder, and they fit all our requirements. Actually, there are two requirements I know. One is to generate documentation, and the second is to be sure that driver implements minimum feature set. Because honestly, we don't care about other features.
right.
So if interfaces can make all these things, we can just drop base volume drive classes. I mean ABC classes, or how it's called now.
So is your concern that we're using these ABC classes to demand some baseline functionality?
No, I don't know what my concern is actually. I think it's because I think that the tests don't depend on the ABC classes or anything. I guess like back, I think my interest is mainly that we have a clear place where the interface is documented. And I guess we're talking about two separate things. One's the underlying implementation and how you gather the pieces into the driver you're implementing so that you inherit the correct stuff. And then the other one is just making sure that you implement the correct interface for when you override inherited functions. So yeah, so it's probably not directly related. But I guess the thing with the mixing classes, I mean, the reason I asked the question was just if you're not going to like implement online extension or something, you're gonna and you I guess let me back up. So in the situation where right currently you add a mixing class to do online extension or something, um, what would you do?
I'm not sure. So manage existing is one that's actually there.
Okay.
But what were you asking?
So then if you in your driver you can't do manage existing. What on the new model you're going to inherit from a base driver that includes that functionality?
It won't include that functionality. It'll just include some method that returns not implemented.
Not implemented. Right.
See, this would be more significant if we were using these ABC classes to actually programmatically figure out, yes, this driver does this function, but I don't think they're actually doing that anyway.
All right, sorry. I guess I just need to look more closely at how we're handling this stuff. I'm not real familiar with it. Anyone have general remarks or anything for Eric? So I guess before Eric starts digging into this, is anyone opposed to this proposal?
I think it's something we've been saying we should do for a while.
Okay, then Eric, is other than like notifying people that you think you may take this on, is there anything you need from the rest of the team? Other than reviews once you get patches up.
I don't think so.
All right, so the main thing is I'll put something out to the mailing list just to say if you're maintaining an out-of-tree driver, we anticipate a major refactoring happening during this development cycle, and you're suitably warned. So take appropriate action. Guess that's it. All right, since we've got, so we're gonna meet with Nova in 15 minutes. Let me, any further discussion on this before we move on? All right, I'm gonna steal a topic from Friday now. Okay, so it has to do with Cinder throttle and C groups V2, which should be C group. Okay, so the basic situation, my right notes here. Okay, so C group V2 has been in the Linux kernel for a long time, and it's being pretty widely used as far as I can tell. In fact, systemd makes use of this. And the big holdup in moving from C group V1 to V2 was containers. And in the fall of 2020, both Kubernetes and Docker now support C group V2. So it looks like that's not an issue. So it looks like the only person
Well,
left.
Docker actually requires it, I think.
Okay. So, yeah, because it seems like you can have C group V1 and V2 coexisting, but people don't recommend it because it's a way to get things completely screwed up. So right now we do, I guess my first question is, has anyone here actually used the Cinder throttling?
I mean, I've studied how it works.
Yeah, I don't know that we tested anywhere, but I guess that's a side point. So it seems like we can just move to C group V2, so just start using C group V2 and not use V1. So that would be my proposal, and I'm just wondering if anyone has any counter intuitions there.
I think that's correct.
Okay, so the issue that's coming up was Debian was, I don't know if they do, well, so C group V2 is like the default in Fedora since 31, I think. And some of the other major distributions are going to make it the default. And in order to use V1, you have to take heroic measures. So So I think if we just move to V2 in Xena, we'll be fine. So, so and I think I've been looking into this. I think it's not going to be a big deal to make that change. But the only thing is, it's not at all compatible with cgroup v1. So you got to have v2 available. But from what I can tell, in order to be using system D these days, you got to have cgroups v2 running, because system D pretty heavily uses that. So I think we're okay just making the switch. So I guess the only thing to do is send something to the mailing list saying we're going to make this change, and then make it in Xena, and I think we're fine. But I don't see any reason to have backward compatibility, because I don't think we really need it. But I wanted to throw that out there to see if there's something I'm missing.
Are we the only OpenStack service that uses cgroups?
As far as I can tell, I mean, I think Nova does indirectly through libvirt, and libvirt has changed to using v2 at some point. But as far as I could tell, I think we're the only one who is explicitly doing stuff with cgroup. Okay, so as far as I can tell, right, containers are not an issue with this anymore, and I believe it's available in all the distributions, and may in fact be the default by the time Xena comes out in some of the major distributions. And even if it's not the default, it's available. So I don't think we really need to even provide special instructions about what to do to make sure you've got cgroup v2, because everybody's got it.
Well, and most deployments don't actually use this code anyway. It's only for the LVM driver uses it, and I'm not sure what else. But it's not used a whole lot of things in Cinder.
All right, well, that seems good enough. Okay, any questions, observations, or 9 minutes till we go to Nova?
So you said that container support wasn't in place, and now it is in place. So, like, what are the changes? Like, can you just, I mean, like, what were the changes we did to like this code?
I'm sorry, you broke up, and I didn't quite catch the question, Rashad.
Yeah, so you said we didn't move to V2 because container support wasn't in place. So
Oh, no,
what were the
actually,
changes we did?
yeah, that wasn't really we so much as like the community of users, not OpenStack. Yeah, let me just correct that. So it wasn't, so we've been using cgroup v2, and in general, the only reason cgroup v1 stuck around was that containers depended on it pretty heavily, and now that's been removed. So my point there was just that the only thing keeping v1 around was containers, and now that the major container systems all use v2, v1's going to disappear. So if we don't move, we're going to be screwed, basically.
But I think it may disappear in CentOS Rel 9 anyway.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, thanks. So the basic thing was we didn't have to worry about it. V1 was in distributions. The reason had to do with containers, but nothing that didn't by itself impact Cinder. So now that containers support V2, we can anticipate everybody ripping out V1 support. So we have to also make a move to V2. So that's the thing. Okay, so we're going to move to V2. My question was, is there any reason for us to still support C Group V1? And I think the answer is no. So that's it. So thanks for asking that, Rajat. All right, and thanks, Jay, for the notes. Okay, so at this point, we'll move to the Nova room to continue. There's a lot of notes on that Etherpad, so we actually may want to take 5 minutes to look that over before showing up in Nova, and then we'll be finished for the day from there. So tomorrow is the driver's day. So please attend, and we'll be doing a team picture tomorrow also. Any questions or comments before we move over? Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording. Make sure you open the Etherpad that Lee set up for the cross-project meeting, and then rejoin using Zoom in the Nova room. And we're scheduled to start there in 4 minutes. Okay?
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, everybody. All right, so
Okay.
see you in a couple of minutes.